Happy Tuesday. I'm the Gray Strega, and I'm here to give you your daily collective read for today, Tuesday, October 10th, 2023. What do we have coming through in the cards for today? May I please have the first 5 cards in our 5-card spread? First card we are pulling today is, we love this, we have here our 8 of Cups. Moving away from hurdles, moving away from blockages, maybe some of that bittersweet energy we did identify yesterday. Heavy energy coming into play, a lot of cycles breaking. However, for partnered energies right now, this is going to feel like a lot of productivity effectively coming into play. Bearing in mind that this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. We saw that even for the energies in partnership yesterday, there was a lot of disruption as it relates to planning, to communication. These are hurdles that have to be navigated even in partnerships that are going well right now. There may have even been a lot of triggered circumstances or situations that were effectively rising to the surface. Feminine was effectively coming from a state or space of really advocating and articulating upon their needs, what they need to feel seen, appreciated, deserved, valued. Masculine, yesterday may have felt even in partnership that there was a point of having to have some bit of shelving your own emotionality and your own passion for the sake of showing up for feminine in some way. However, we're seeing that for the energies in partnership right now, this is a lot of that work that masculine may be feeling like they're putting forward to feminine. There's something here about having to effectively invest in the feminine energy right now, recognizing that you will get it back in turn. Masculine and feminine energy, we did see that a lot of triggers that were coming into play yesterday, potentially both energies articulating to one another around past experiences, past trauma, what they may have brought on, some of these blockages that is causing some of this inability to be able to truly communicate in effective ways right now. We did see that there is something very valuable, though, in the partnerships themselves as it relates to identifying what these hurdles are, so that you can move away from them effectively. And what we appreciate right now for the energy that is in divine union and partnership is you're not necessarily finding the weak points in each other and optimizing on them. Rather, you are utilizing them right now to make sure that you can be very cautious, work through them very carefully. Allow these to be moments of, again, easing off, potentially even recognizing some triggers that you did not know existed that you will now be much more cautious of moving forward. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is trying to move into partnership, this is again some of that make or break that we've been seeing over the last few days leading up to this eclipse. Because what we're really identifying here is, again, unfortunately, we saw that this mirroring, this inability to communicate right now that we're seeing that we're coming through so strongly for masculine and feminine yesterday is now effectively reaching that point of an impasse. For feminine, there's something about potentially seeing a vacillation point in the masculine right now. It's not necessarily the fact that the masculine may be articulating and communicating some sort of desire for divine union. The deeper matter that is effectively coming into play right now for the feminine energy, trying to come forward in this way, is potentially the recognition of a masculine energy that does not recognize the difference between advocating and articulating how they feel versus the action that one must do to really show that one has the understanding of what it takes to be in divine union. Why am I saying that right now? Because we saw that for a lot of the feminine energy, there was a moment of asking the masculine to come forward in some way. This is something that was creating a bit of a struggle point for the masculine energy as it felt like a bit of a compromise. For some of the masculine, this may either felt like doing something that they didn't necessarily feel was completely necessary, or may go so far as feeling like a bridge too far for the masculine right now. This is potentially even masculine energy that's trying to approach feminine right now from a space of communicating their emotions, of communicating their passion. Feminine is effectively blocking that off to a certain extent and saying to the masculine, it is not a question about how you feel about me. It is a question to see if you're able to actually put that care into a way that it shows some ability to take action towards it in a way that feels loving to me. There could even be a moment right now for the energies trying to come into partnership In terms of feminine trying to communicate to masculine, the difference between feeling and emotion and doing something from an act of love. And this, for the feminine right now, is the separation point that we are identifying, of feminine potentially observing some masculine energy right now and having some dawning realization that perhaps what is effectively happening right now is not necessarily a masculine energy that is working from a state or space of denying the feminine something, but rather potentially a state or space of the masculine energy not identifying what it actually takes to be in a divine union. For the feminine energy that's effectively recognizing this at this time, this is potentially going to feel like a departure point for the feminine, because this is that moment of feminine energy effectively recognizing that there's something here that the masculine may not have learned on their own, that the feminine does not effectively feel like they have the power to teach. This would effectively be that moment where feminine, while they may be feeling a deep connection to some masculine energy, they may be choosing to walk away, recognizing that this is effectively a hurdle too far, because this is not something that the feminine can effectively fix. Masculine that is trying to come into partnership right now, this is either seeing these one or two different modalities that are taking place. You may be recognizing or feeling right now, again, if you are able to come forward to the feminine in this way, if the feminine had a request that you felt was a little bit of a stretch for you, or you felt was a little bit of a compromise, if you were able to kind of do that work, if you were able to show up for the feminine in that way, recognizing that that's what the feminine needed to be able to feel seen, valued, appreciated, and loved, this is immediately bringing you into the state or space of divine union. So you're probably shifting into that divine union area right now. If you are in that point of vacillating, if you are questioning, if you are still potentially putting the feminine off in this way, as we've seen for several days now, this may now be a moment that you are watching the feminine energy walk away. You may be seeing this feminine energy walking away right now, and you may be struggling what to do, because you're potentially seeing the fact that this isn't necessarily a feminine energy that is waiting to stay in terms of you making your mind. There's something, as we said, about the vacillation point that is confirming to the feminine something. This may be you trying to operate in terms of determining what to do, if you yourself will also walk away, or if you're going to try to chase after the feminine that you're seeing is in this vibration right now. For masculine and feminine energy right now that is working in separation, this is more of that work that we're effectively identifying as it relates to identifying hurdles so that you can move forward in more productive ways right now. Feminine energy, we are effectively identifying at this time that, again, feminine energy is feeling a little bit of this bittersweet energy even in separation, probably and potentially a lot of heavy energy coming into play yesterday as you were tackling a lot of internal hurdles. But recentering, coming back into your center, even in separation right now, by having a deeper appreciation of what it means to feel seen, appreciated, valued, cared for. There may even be a moment right now for the feminine, whereas while you may be feeling, again, some connection to past energy, you are also recognizing that while you may be feeling the draw towards that energy, it wasn't necessarily spaces or places that you were feeling loved or seen or appreciated, but rather places that you were waiting for that from those places. This is why the feminine energy isn't effectively chasing after those things, because there's something deeper coming to the center about the fact that the feminine wants to be appreciated without having to chase after it. It should just be something that is brought first and foremost. Feminine is helping themselves overcome their own hurdles and blockages and limitations right now by identifying this within the self. And this is what is allowing the feminine energy to move away from what they are now identifying or articulating is simply a blockage or a hurdle. Bittersweet, because there would be the ideal that this is not the case, but still they are allowing themselves that concession as they consider to continue to move forward from this space. While for masculine energy that is in separation right now, this is again something that is happening on a deep internal level at this time, as we identified and articulated. For the masculine energy that is invested in doing this work at this time, this was effectively either one of two different modalities that were coming into play. This is either a masculine energy that was committing themselves to doing some level or degree of work, making there be a point of deep, direct change that is effectively occurring at this time. The masculine energy invested in this work for themselves at this moment is effectively recognizing that they are now coming from a state or space of moving towards feminine energy, much more open, much more articulate as it relates to what it is that you truly desire going forward. And rather than this doing what you may have thought it would do, which is send the feminine energy away. You're actually experiencing and potentially seeing the fact that this is allowing the feminine energy to more quickly emotionally connect to you, because you yourself are showing evidence of being emotionally balanced. And this is that moment that is allowing you to feel like there's some sort of awakening that's happening as it relates to your own understanding of your own past experiences. This could be feeling like a bit of a hurdle for the masculine experiencing this right now, because this is effectively you potentially identifying and being able to see your own blockages, how you may have limited yourself in the past based on your own conduct that is now allowing you new pathways going forward. It is also feeling bittersweet for masculine energy in this modality, because it is having you have to recognize a hurdle from the past that you can't necessarily correct, but observing it is allowing you a new pathway going forward. While for masculine energy and separation, this is also potentially that other barrier that's effectively coming into play. This is you having a lot of focus towards a representation or a level of feminine right now that you're working on some space or place of healing on. For masculine right now, this is potentially one of those situations or circumstances where you are seeing the hurdles that you yourself may have put up in this way. And this is also a moment where you are trying to find a way to circumnavigate those hurdles to potentially come back into connection with this energy. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now. Second card in our 5-card spread for today. We have here our 10 of Pentacles, and we love to see this because this is speaking towards spaces and places of productivity, of positivity, masculine and feminine energy in partnership at this time. This is what we're effectively seeing that is allowing this level or degree of easement going forward. For feminine and masculine that is in partnership at this moment, this is that work that you're effectively doing to continue to identify the blockages, continue to identify the hurdles, continue to see the spaces and places that are leading you to better productivity and positivity as you proceed forward from this point. Now, one of the things that we're potentially identifying right now is, again, yesterday there may have been a lot of triggering energy, particularly even for the energies in partnership at this moment. What we're effectively identifying right now is the fact that for the energies right now that are in this modality, this is that moment that, again, you are being very cautious of one another's triggers. It's not the fact that triggers weren't hit yesterday. You're just doing what you can to navigate around them effectively. There may even be a lot of conscientiousness that is being paid right now to help identify and articulate to the other energy that something that occurred was triggering and that there'll be more mindfulness going forward. This is allowing for the partnered energies to move into spaces and places that feel more productive today. While for masculine and feminine energy right now that is coming into partnership, this is more of that make or break that we're effectively seeing, okay? Because what we are effectively identifying right now is this fact that we are seeing that for the energies trying to come into partnership, this is that moment that, again, this is either the feminine energy seeing from the masculine an ability to compromise, an ability to meet the feminine where they're at, an ability to approach the feminine in this way, to make some adaptations, to make some changes. This is seeing the tangibility that is giving the feminine energy a moment of feeling the positivity, the success of divine union and divine partnership. Or this is the moment that feminine is not seeing that and they are walking away. This is, again, not something that feminine is sticking around to feel like they have to teach or educate an energy on. It's more about identifying whether it is there or not. And this is the feminine that is conceding to themselves it's either there or it's not. If it isn't there, feminine is recognizing that they cannot teach or put it there for the masculine. It just has to be there. Feminine's conceding and allowing this as a point of, again, positivity, productivity, moving into divine union or divine partnership, or walking away. For masculine energy right now that is working, again, through partnership, this is that moment that we're still seeing that there's some of this vacillation that is potentially occurring right now. This could be a feeling right now that feels a bit frustrating for masculine, because this could even be a moment that you are observing that your own vacillation is causing some of this energy, this feminine energy, to move away from you at this time. This is either, again, you effectively trying to chase after that energy to try to say to them, no, I understand, I want this is what I desire. Or this is you effectively allowing that feminine energy to move away, trying to build that sense or level of degree of support in terms of the energy around you at this time. While for masculine and feminine energy right now in separation, this is effectively that moment that we are effectively seeing that again. Feminine energy, again, having to move away from circumstances and situations that they would prefer not to move away from, building some level or degree of sympathy for themselves at this time with a recognition of, again, they're moving away from what they're identifying right now is a blockage, is a hurdle. This is not necessarily a feminine energy that feels like they need to chase after masculine to be able to articulate to them what they need to feel seen, appreciated, and valued. Rather, they are using that as the identification of the blockage, moving forward right now into spaces and places that they feel are more productive going forward from this time. While for masculine energy that is in separation at this moment, this is again a lot of that growth cycle that we are seeing effectively coming into fruition. Because again, this is either a masculine energy that is taking a new approach to new feminine energy, operating from a space and place of deeper openness, deeper vulnerability, communicating what you would ideally really truly like going forward. You're immediately seeing a result on that, and it's creating this retroactive understanding on what you need to change going forward. And it's also potentially giving you a lot of optics on the past, on what blockages that you hit in the past where you weren't necessarily implementing these same practices. This is feeling like a point of bittersweetness, because while it is allowing for a lot more positivity going forward, it is also coming with a lot of deep reflection at this time. It is helping you come into balance with your own emotional center, but it is also identifying how some of these things were things that you did not understand in the past, that is requiring some recalibration on your own experiences, that retroactive learning, if you will. While for the other part of the masculine collective right now, this is effectively you potentially trying to come back towards some energy right now. You are going back to that energy by articulating and identifying to that energy that you now see how your own past limitations and hurdles cause these blockages. And that is why you're effectively coming towards an ability to be able to approach this energy, because you're able to come into a space of vulnerability in terms of recognizing that you now know how to proceed, that is going to lead to more productive paths going forward. Third card in our 5-card spread for today is, we have here our King of Wands in its reversal. Now, for masculine and feminine energy, if this card looks familiar, it's because we pulled it yesterday. So masculine is still very much in the same vibration that we did see yesterday. This could be communicated as feeling some kind of blockages in the realm of passion, in the realm of communication. Masculine right now, even in partnership at this moment, there could be a feeling of feeling somewhat blocked and limited in terms of your own plans, in terms of your own passion at this time. This is potentially even talking right now for the masculine. As we saw, there was a feeling that there was something about the feminine being triggered yesterday. And so conducting oneself or moving from a state or space of deep caution at this time, moving very delicately as it were, but trying to focus on places and spaces of productivity at this time. Even for the partnered energies right now, this is still speaking about the fact that there is something here that is feeling like there are some communication blockages or some communication hurdles that are still effectively coming into play right now. For masculine, this is going to be about trying to feel like there is this way of channeling your communication and your passion in productive ways at this time. Feminine, this could be feeling like you are recognizing and seeing the masculine in this vibration. This could be some of that carryover to some of those difficult conversations or situations that we saw that were arising even for partnered energies yesterday. For masculine and feminine energy that is working in this modality right now, there's going to have to be a lot of care to be put into play. There could even still be, so for some energies in partnership right now, something about those trigger points having gotten hit yesterday that are creating a bit of a challenge, specifically so for the masculine right now. Feminine, you may also be feeling much like that reflection point of having to be very delicate right now in terms of navigating certain things, trying to focus on what feels productive on the whole. Masculine and feminine energy right now that is working through a space or place of, again, identifying the possibility of whether there is a partnership or union potential in some circumstances or situations right now. This is that dividing line that we're effectively seeing. What is the dividing line that we're effectively identifying at this time? Specifically for the feminine energy that is in this modality or in this vibration, what we are really seeing is this is a moment that again, the feminine energy is looking for the masculine because this is potentially articulating the situation that we have seen thus far. This is a feminine energy. This is not the fact that the masculine energy isn't communicating something about their emotionality. It's not about the fact that the masculine energy isn't communicating something about their passion. It is more so about the fact that the feminine energy needed to see some tangible activation point to articulate that this is a masculine energy that is not necessarily just approaching them from a basis of their own needs or their own desires, but is in a space or place where they are willing to be able to collaborate. Collaboration requires compromise. Collaboration requires being able to meet each other where you're at, to make plans going forward. For some of the feminine energy right now, if this masculine energy hasn't activated on what you asked them to activate on, this is that moment that you're effectively potentially seeing right now, or identifying the fact that this feels like a masculine energy that does not want to relinquish their own level or degree of autonomy at this moment, that they're only trying to serve their own needs, their own desires, which is again that moment that would be a point of walking away from the feminine, because this is a point of observation of feminine recognizing right now that they're not in a space or place to have to educate masculine as to the benefits of divine union and divine partnership at this time. Instead, feminine energy will just be turning their concentration to spaces and places that they feel have more productive ability of having that as they find it. While for masculine energy right now that is coming into union or partnership, this is that possibility that, again, you are effectively seeing this at this time. For the masculine, there's some point of anxiety or confusion that's potentially coming into play if you're still in this vibration, specifically because we see here that this is effectively you being unable to make up your mind. This is now potentially feeling like a bit of that internal journey right now, masculine, if you're trying to come into partnership right now, because you're seeing here something that could be very productive, but it is requiring you to walk away from something at this time. And this is either something where you are being willing to walk away from something, or you are watching something walking away from you. Now, for masculine and feminine energy right now that is in separation, this is again the feminine energy focusing and keeping their orientation right now on spaces and places that feel like they are productive going forward. This is again a lot of that bittersweet energy that we saw was a carryover from yesterday for the energies that are effectively in separation at this time. But feminine again is basically identifying that if the masculine energy isn't coming towards them, isn't approaching them with the offers, with the tangibles, regardless of whether they feel like they have some kind of connection to this energy, feminine is effectively walking away from those connections with this identification that that does not necessarily serve any practical functional space in the feminine's life, that it is just a connection that feels like it is based from a space of, again, passion and pleasure, but it isn't necessarily a complete or a holistic partnership. And this is why the feminine energy is continuing to go forward in this capacity. And although it is bittersweet because they are still feeling the connection to that engine, but they're almost like defining it or seeing it right now as the fact that that is that point of recognizing that it's only from a space or place of passion. Masculine energy and separation right now, this is that moment of deeper understanding that is coming into play as it relates to your own path and the past. This is very important because there's a lot of retroactive understanding that is now arriving to the masculine energy right now that is in this collective, bearing in mind that this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. Why? Because we are potentially seeing right now that this is masculine energy that is employing new approaches from a space of openness and honesty to the new feminine energy that they are looking to connect with. And as a result, they are almost seeing an immediate difference, an immediate response, a different connection that's effectively immediately opening up in feminine, recognizing masculine energy that is willing to be vulnerable by expressing what their needs are also, but considering the possibility that it may lead to a point of rejection. The masculine isn't experiencing rejection by being open in this way. Rather, it's almost like unlocking a door in the feminine that recognizes the masculine that is able to show this level or degree of vulnerability. For the masculine energy that is recognizing right now, this is that retroactive awakening moment because you're now having to look at past experiences where you didn't necessarily provide this with new optics, and you are now seeing and identifying how you may have been the limiting factor in those spaces and places leading to points of productivity. This is giving a bit of that like eye-opening moment for the masculine where you're effectively seeing how you may have effectively stood in your own way in some place in the past. This is potentially feeling like bittersweet enlightenment, because while it is identifying the hurdles that you yourself may have inadvertently created, it's at the benefit of now seeing the new doors that are opening now that you've come into that space or place of emotional balance. While for the other part of the masculine collective right now, this is that moment of potentially trying to go back to a manifestation of feminine that you now want to take this understanding to. This is that identification factor that you've now reached within yourself. You are seeing how you may have been a part in that self-limiting factor around those situations and circumstances from the past. This is you effectively trying to identify and articulate how you might be able to do so, to be able to articulate to this energy that you now recognize the limiting factor that was preventing success in the past, and that you're now trying to bring things back because you see how you yourself stood in the way of it being able to move into a space or place of divine union. Fourth card in our 5-card spread for today is, we have here our High Priestess in its reversal. Now, for masculine and feminine energy right now that is in partnership, this is more of that triggering that we saw yesterday potentially coming back into play today. The masculine energy is still very much in the same modality that we identified that they were in yesterday. There is a caution here. There is a trepidation here. There is almost a walking right now, almost, it's giving a lot of like walking on eggshells right now around feminine energy to a certain extent, even in partnership right now. Why? Because there was some kind of identification yesterday of a trigger point that was hit around both energies. This is masculine, like being very cautious around the feminine, trying to circumnavigate those triggers that may have been identified yesterday. Feminine, you're potentially feeling this on the part of the masculine that you are in partnership with. You may even be kind of reconsidering or recalibrating your own actions at this time, having to effectively recognize that one of the reasons that you're potentially seeing this masculine energy in this point of uncertainty, in this point of not communicating as much, is because there is this point that they are walking or moving around you with a state or space of caution. Right? Feminine right now is now going inwards right now and almost over analyzing the reactivity point of the masculine right now that they're identifying doing this, almost asking themselves if they did something wrong. Really what's happening is these two energies were both very triggered yesterday, and they're both operating from a state or space of supreme caution right now, trying to focus on the positive. This is actually like almost a level or degree of mindfulness, i.e. the level or degree of care that the partnered energies are trying to provide one another, but it may be misinterpreted. It may be getting misinterpreted as an energy having some kind of resentment or holding some kind of resentment toward the other, when really it's almost coming from a state of abundant caution. So just be a little mindful of that, even if you're in partnership right now. Now, for masculine and feminine energy right now that is working to come into partnership or union, what we're effectively seeing right now is, again, this is that moment that is showing that make or break point as it relates to whether these energies are going to be coming into divine union or not. Why are we seeing that? Because we are effectively identifying right now that for feminine energy right now, there is a moment that you are looking at the masculine. There is a point of observation. This is no longer now coming from a state or space of feminine, potentially feeling like this is being withheld from the masculine to the feminine. This potentially could now be feeling like the feminine energy may have misjudged the masculine energy, may have over assumed the masculine energy had this ability, had this degree. There could even be a moment right now that the feminine energy is reconsidering the actions of the masculine with this point of observation in terms of saying, is this something that the masculine energy is intentionally withholding from them? This idea of divine union, recognizing what needs to be amended or corrected to come into divine union, or is this an energy of a masculine that simply does not understand what is required to come into divine union? For feminine right now, that is going to be whether there's a feeling right now of productivity, something that can be corrected, or if this is something that they need to be walked away from. But the feminine is putting a lot of this weight on themselves at this moment. They are reconsidering potentially whether they want to be in divine union with this energy if they're seeing that vacillation point. While for masculine right now that is trying to come into partnership, this is effectively you seeing this feminine energy starting to move away from you to a certain degree. They're potentially moving away from you to a certain degree, and you're potentially identifying and understanding this if you're seeing and recognizing it, because they have been effectively asking you to take some steps to show them, to articulate to them that what you are saying is not just wordplay, but is actually backed up by actual action. And this is that moment that you are feeling again. They wait the understanding of what it is that you need to do to be able to call this energy back to you. But you are deliberating doing this because you are recognizing that it would effectively make you have to come into a space of walking away from other things. And this is that moment for the masculine, which is either, again, holding on to what you have at this time and allowing this energy to move away from you, or chasing after that energy to try to call them back, to tell them that you are willing to do this even while you are still potentially vacillating. Now, for masculine and feminine energy that is in separation at this time, this is that moment that we are seeing that there is still this point for the feminine that is requiring a lot of this self-assessment. There's a lot of this energy here that is coming into play of the feminine recognizing their own limitations, their own hurdles. Feminine isn't moving towards masculine right now because feminine is miscalculating or feeling anxiety as it relates to their own intuition at this time. Feminine energy is trying to get their confidence back to a certain degree, because we saw that there was a lot of heavy energy that was coming out yesterday, even for the feminine energy in separation. Recognizing that there is a pull, there's a connection back towards some energy that while they may feel a lot of connectivity to them, they are recognizing that they don't necessarily feel loved by that energy. They don't effectively feel seen by that energy, because the only way that they would effectively do that is if that energy approached them in a way that felt straightforward, upfront, and clear. The energy here for feminine is effectively one where they're trying to release because they're not necessarily feeling that or seeing that tangibly, even though they're feeling it emotionally. And this is what's requiring the feminine energy to effectively go back into themselves right now, because they're questioning their own logic. They're questioning the difference between what they're feeling and what they're tangibly seeing, because they don't effectively line up. It's the moment the energetic connection and the practical application or implementation are incongruous, and it's making the feminine energy question their own self at this time. Masculine energy that is in, but what we appreciate about this isn't feminine energy coming into a space or place of reactivity about that. They're instead just going inward to assess and understand and try to get a better understanding on why that this would be. Why would they feel a connection to a masculine energy that is not effectively showing a tangible expression of what they're feeling? This is that moment that is, again, the feminine identifying they may feel a connection to something that isn't necessarily feeling productive. This is feminine looking at the connection they feel towards someone and saying, is this productive or not? If not, feminine's walking away from it. Masculine energy in separation at this time, this is effectively, again, a moment that you are having a point of dawning realization. This is either coming through in terms of one or two different modalities. This is either a masculine energy that is now taking new tactics, new approaches in terms of opening up to feminine energy. And it's a space or state where you're feeling a lot more vulnerable because you're being a lot more open and honest in terms of what it is that you're truly seeking. You're seeing immediate positive results. You're seeing that it is taken with a point of understanding and acceptance that you may not necessarily have even considered would be possible. It's almost leading to almost immediate better connections. And this is that dawning realization for the masculine right now in terms of some of the spaces that you may have blocked your own path in the past. This could be, again, a moment where you're now recognizing that there were opportunities for this in the past that you may have ignored because you weren't necessarily coming from a state or place of complete authenticity and collaboration. This is either creating a space or place of recalibration, as it were, because you're now identifying some situations and circumstances from the past, which is helping you recognize why the feminine energy was effectively keeping you at such a far distance. Why the feminine energy effectively broke off or broke away from you. You're now seeing your own culpability in those spaces and places, and it may be feeling bittersweet because that understanding is now equipping you to have better productivity going forward, but you're now carrying the weight of the heavy lesson in terms of understanding your own culpability in those circumstances or situations. Or the other part of the masculine collective, you have this knowledge, you've gained this insight, you're now recognizing this aspect of yourself. The problem that we're seeing here is you're trying to move back towards a feminine energy that already sees you in this vibration. They already see this there, and now you are effectively seeing in yourself the mirror of what that person saw, having learned this lesson. This is that moment that potentially you are trying to identify how to approach that energy, to articulate to them, I now understand my own culpability as it relates to where we find ourselves and how you perceive me. And this is you effectively identifying now that you've gone through this growth period so that there could be a more productive future going forward. But it is hard path because you're seeing the fact that this feminine energy has effectively closed off to you to a certain extent, given the fact that they see you in this modality that you now recognize and identify in yourself. Fifth card in our 5-card spread for today, before we start getting clarification on these cards right now, we have here our Ace of Pentacles in its reversal, same card that we received yesterday. So masculine and feminine energy, what's really interesting is even in partnership right now, there's a feeling of trepidation as one navigate each other today. But what's interesting about it is this sense of trepidation is exerting an overabundance of doting, an overabundance of caution. Why? Because we saw that a trigger was hit yesterday. A trigger was hit yesterday, triggering circumstances, triggering situations. Masculine and feminine in partnership right now are giving each other space, and they're trying to navigate. There could be some anxiety rising in terms of the feeling that you're seeing this trepidation on the part of each other. But again, it's almost overextending itself in being overly giving, overly careful, overly like careful with each other to a sense or space that almost like exacerbates the feeling of like disconnectedness. This is like giving so much that it feels like it's making someone feel a bit uncomfortable to a certain extent, because both energies are extending a lot of that care, recognizing that a trigger was hit. So for masculine and feminine energy right now that's in partnership, some of this caution or this touchiness that we're seeing that's coming into play is almost exerting a lot of care and attention to one another to navigate some of those hurdles or triggers that may have potentially been hit yesterday. For masculine and feminine energy right now that is trying to come into partnership, this is effectively, as we said, the make or break moment in terms of identifying and articulating whether these are going to be spaces or places that can come into alignment. Problem with this is both energies feel like they are overcompensating for the other one right now, right? Feminine energy is looking at something right now and they're feeling firm. What was the lesson from the feminine energy coming out of the Venus in retrograde cycle? Not wanting to overgive to situations that don't give back in kind. Feminine energy is potentially looking at a situation or circumstance right now where they may have felt like they've already overgiven. They may have felt that they're already back in that space. Feminine energy is pulling back from those right now with anxiety that they may be overgiving to spaces, not just that aren't willing to give back in kind, but are potentially showing an inability to even understand how to. This is why that feminine energy is potentially pulling back right now if they haven't seen the masculine energy step forward in this way and provide that tangible as it relates to the emotional offer. Masculine right now in partnership, you're effectively seeing this on the part of the feminine. You're potentially recognizing and seeing a feminine right now that is pulling back. And this is either, again, resulting in one or two different modalities right now. This is either the masculine energy seeing the feminine energy pulling back because of that lack of giving forward that was occurring. And this is either requiring the masculine to almost feel like they need to overcompensate at this point. Almost trying to like overgive now and being like, wait, no, I'm going to do this here. Please, I'm willing to do this. I'm ready, blah, blah, blah. Uncertain now if this is going to be a little bit of a too little, too late scenario. Or simultaneously right now, this is effectively allowing the feminine energy to pull away because there's something about this partnership that, again, you're recognizing the point of compromise. You're recognizing what you need to give forth, and it's feeling like it would be too much. It's feeling like you don't have the ability, you don't have the availability to like invest in this partnership, i.e. potentially choosing autonomy at this moment. Hence again, moving potentially back into separation as you see this feminine energy withdraw. For masculine and feminine energy right now that is in separation, this is effectively the feminine energy continuing to affirm and confirm to themselves their own absolute refusal not to give back to situations that do not give back to them in kind. This is not about the connection that the feminine energy is feeling towards some masculine right now. The feeling or the undeniability of some kind of passionate connection here is very clear and abundant. What is serving right now, the feminine that is moving through this modality right now, is asking themselves if what they feel is practical. Is it something they can actually move into a practical space, or is it just a physical connection that is requiring feminine energy to overgive as it relates to their time, their energy, their bandwidth, specifically and only for the state and place of a physical connection on the part of the masculine? Feminine energy is rejecting that type of connection right now, regardless of how strong the pull is. This is why the feminine energy is effectively in a state or space right now where, again, they're not potentially moving towards a lot of new manifestations of masculine right now, bearing in mind that this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. But instead, is almost utilizing this as a moment of recalibration, calling their own energy back to be able to affirm to themselves that they're only putting their energy in productive spaces and places. While for masculine energy right now that is in separation, this is effectively that moment that you are now having some dawning realization potentially as it relates to what you're effectively offering the feminine at this time, how it is being taken, and it is reshaping your own perception of past experiences that is helping you come into better alignment at this time. For the masculine energy in separation, we're seeing that you may be employing new levels and degrees of openness that you haven't prior to this point towards new feminine energy that you are potentially encountering at this time. You are almost immediately seeing a return on that investment in ways that you haven't before as it relates to the feminine energy being open and expressive and communicative to you. This is recalibrating a lot of your experiences from the past. You may be seeing them now with new optics. And this is a moment that could be feeling bittersweet, because while you may be now identifying how you yourself may have stood in your own way in the past in order to achieve this type of benchmark or this type of milestone, it's now helping you really recognize why some energy is no longer in connection with you, because you're seeing yourself effectively through the feminine's eyes, having come into alignment with your feminine. This is now requiring a point of, again, bittersweet energy in terms of assessing and understanding your own limitations that you didn't recognize, that retroactive learning on experiences that feels bittersweet, even as you go forward with the same sense of that better understanding of the self. While for the other part of the masculine collective right now, this is that moment that you're trying to take that learning and that understanding to a manifestation of feminine. You are trying to articulate to this feminine that you now see it. You now identify and understand what the feminine saw that had to require them to pull away from you. You are potentially taking accountability for this, or desiring to take accountability to be able to rebuild a connection with feminine at this time. But you are understanding and accessing how much you're going to have to overgive to this to be able to move the feminine out of the vibration of seeing you in this poor light, as it were, because now you are also identifying how you may have been in your own way. Let's get some clarification on these cards right now as we proceed forward from this point. Clarification between our Eight of Cups in combination with our Ten of Pentacles. May I please have one card to clarify? We've got here our Six of Swords. Beautiful energy right now, because what we're effectively identifying is, again, masculine and feminine energy right now. This is going to feel like a lot of catharsis entering circumstances and situations if you are in partnership at this moment. There is a feeling right now of trepidation even in the partnerships. Triggers were hit yesterday. Difficult conversations were had. Traumas were effectively brought to the surface. Masculine and feminine, even in partnership right now, are moving and navigating around each other delicately, trying to focus on the positive, even as you are having to effectively carry some of that grief that was brought up yesterday with you as you proceed forward from this time. Some of this bittersweet energy effectively coming into play right now, even in the partnered energies. Now, for masculine and feminine energy right now that's trying to move into partnership, this is effectively that moment that we are identifying as to whether this is going to be something that is coming to a space or place of productivity or not. Why are we saying this? Because we are effectively identifying that, again, feminine energy is now seeing something in masculine that they effectively feel that they cannot unsee. This is no longer potentially a moment right now for the energy trying to come into partnership. Feminine asked masculine to step forward in a very tangible way. Masculine has either done so, i.e. moving them into the possibility of potentially continuing on that path to divine union, or they didn't see it. The problem with the feminine right now that is seeing the masculine vacillate in this way, shape, or degree is that it's no longer coming through right now as a feeling to the feminine that this is something that the masculine is potentially denying the feminine intentionally. This is a feeling right now that feminine is now questioning whether the masculine energy understands how to move into divine union or divine partnership. Feminine is recognizing that they cannot teach this to the masculine, and this is again the moment that the feminine is either seeing it and feeling that relief in the masculine being able to step forward in this way, or they're just moving away. They're just walking away from this connection, holding the regret because they're recognizing that there's something here that the masculine has to learn that the feminine cannot teach them. Masculine right now that is again trying to move into partnership, this is potentially again you seeing the feminine in this vibration. This is either you having stepped up in this way, been able to make this concession for the feminine energy, showing them in a tangible way that you are ready to put words against your actions, or put actions against your words. And that's immediately leaving you to the possibility of divine union or divine partnership. Or this is a moment that you're effectively watching the feminine energy walk away from you in this capacity. You may either even be identifying, you may be seeing them go, you may be tangibly watching this energy separate from you. And you're potentially understanding why. But again, this is you effectively valuing, weighing what you would have to give up, what autonomy you would have to rescind to be able to come into partnership with the energy. And this is either something that you are giving yourself the concession of holding on to what you're not willing to let go of, even as you're feeling the grief of something, watching something move away from you again, potentially permanently. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, in separation, this is again, the feminine energy is not necessarily paying attention to whether they feel a connection to energy, but they are asking themselves whether that can move into a space and place of productivity, whether it feels like it is practical, whether it feels like it has the ability to do so. If feminine does not see the masculine coming towards them in a tangible way, if they're just feeling this like passionate connection with the masculine energy right now, bearing in mind that this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to, feminine energy is just working on releasing it, putting that time and energy into spaces and places that feels more productive going forward. Masculine energy in separation at this time, this is effectively that point of recalibration. You are now either employing new openness towards feminine energy as you go forward from this point, immediately seeing result. It's giving you bittersweet because you're carrying the grief of the past, the understanding of what didn't work, even as it is allowing for better productivity in the future. For the other part of the masculine collective at this moment, this is that moment that you are trying to recalibrate, to come back to a feminine that holds you with this level or degree of caution. And you're potentially trying to articulate to that energy that you now recognize what needed to be changed within you that was causing the blockage in the first place. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Ten of Pentacles in combination with our King of Wands in its reversal. May I please have one card to clarify? We have here our Page of Wands in its reversal. So, masculine and feminine energy right now, even in partnership at this moment, there is a lot of triggering energy happening. Why? Something about yesterday brought up childhood wounds. Something got triggered. Masculine and feminine energy, we saw deep triggers potentially getting hit. This is either speaking to inner child energy that has to be navigated and mediated Masculine and feminine energy are basically nursing their inner child right now. There may have even been potentially something that occurred yesterday in partnership that felt like a dysregularity, something that accidentally wounded or caused some sense of internal harm towards that inner child energy. We saw this because we saw a lot of that Six of Cups energy coming into play, feeling like there's some deeper traumas that were coming to the surface through some tangible events that were occurring. Maybe even having to deal with outside situation, family problems, or situations that were very highly triggering. For masculine and feminine energy right now that is moving through this vibration, masculine is potentially not communicating a lot right now to the feminine because, again, they are nursing a lot of these inner child wounds right now. And they're trying to keep their focus on what feels productive because something about addressing this right now doesn't feel like it is productive. So masculine's being very practical as it relates to how to navigate this right now. Feminine energy, you may be feeling that the masculine is kind of at a distance from you right now because something about the way that you've been, navigating some things right now, and we will stress this. We saw this yesterday with the energy in partnership. Feminine, effectively, even in partnership yesterday, potentially had to ask the masculine energy or tried to ask the masculine energy to put their own emotions and their own desires to the side to address the feminine's own needs. And this is potentially feminine. You are potentially seeing some of the reaction to that as a feeling of the masculine not being as open to you, having effectively withdrawn to a certain extent. And now this is something that you may be looking at as a point of correction that you're trying to do towards this masculine to let them know that their needs are just as valued as yours. While for masculine and feminine energy right now that is working through trying to come into union or partnership at this time, this is effectively the feminine looking at the masculine. And this is what is so difficult right now for the energies potentially coming into partnership, because this is a feminine energy effectively removing their own ability or degree of having some level or degree of hope as it relates to some of this energy right now. Why? Why is this occurring? Because this is now a feminine energy that is seeing if the masculine energy isn't showing up to them in this way, isn't communicating effectively, isn't being tangible in this way. This is feminine energy looking at the masculine and saying, I thought you were doing this intentionally, but I think it might be worse than you doing it intentionally. I think that you're just kind of in this space and place where you haven't learned how to do it. Feminine's almost identifying now and seeing the masculine in this vibration almost from the perception of them acting like a child, having that point of vulnerability and almost building a point of sympathy for them because, again, this is a feminine energy recalibrating if the masculine isn't showing up in this way, saying it's not even a question about whether I think you're doing this intentionally or not. I think you might not recognize what you're doing. This is almost worse for the feminine because this is feminine recognizing again that this is not necessarily something that the feminine can teach the masculine if they're seeing this, particularly if they recognize that this is a masculine that may have shown some inability or incapacity to progress beyond a certain point right now. This is the feminine effectively coming into a state or space of releasing this by saying, oh my goodness, you may not understand what divine union is. You may not understand what is necessary to really come into partnership. And while there may be sympathy for it, it doesn't necessarily create anything that the feminine feels like they can tangibly move with. While for feminine right now, again, this is either that moment that the masculine is proving this, they've already done this, they've shown it to you, you're moving into divine union. If the masculine's still vacillating, feminine's shifting their perception on the masculine at this time. It's almost this point where feminine's just kind of looking at them and saying, I don't think you're doing this intentionally. I don't think you know what I'm asking of you. While for masculine right now, again, if you are seeing the feminine energy that has effectively asked you to put your actions to your words and you've effectively been vacillating at this time, this is a moment that, again, you're either seeing the feminine energy pulling away from you at this time and you are rushing forward. You're potentially trying to rush forward to show them in every way that you can that you get it. You know what you need to do. That this is that moment that you're saying, no, I completely understand what you're asking of me. Here it is. I'm willing to do it. Or this is a moment that, again, you're not willing to do that. Instead, you are withdrawing from the feminine. You're effectively almost avoiding the conversation. You're still not sure, or you're still at a point where it's like you want this energy, but you're not necessarily willing to compromise. You're not willing to come into a point of collaboration because you're looking at it as a compromise as opposed to a collaboration act. And this is that moment that, again, you're almost feeling this like feeling of the inner child wound rising up because you're effectively seeing a feminine energy that's pulling away from you in this capacity. You're losing the connection to them, and it is triggering inner child wounds if you're not necessarily identifying that this is what's occurring, because this is effectively a situation or circumstance where the feminine is recognizing that this isn't a compromise to the feminine. This is a collaborative act. Masculine and feminine energy in separation right now. For the feminine energy right now that is in separation, this is effectively holding firm to the fact that the feminine energy is not in a space or place where they feel like they want to chase after masculine. This is a moment of feminine feeling that degree or desire of even identifying that while there may be energy that they feel very passionately connected to, it doesn't show anything that potentially feels productive. So feminine energy is only looking right now for energy that shows a tangible degree and desire towards wanting to build towards what feels like divine union right now, as opposed to rejecting energy that's only coming from them from a space or place of the passion center. Feminine energy is just immediately almost like cutting it at, like nipping it in the bud, either both for old energy that they're feeling that connection point with, or anything new that is approaching the feminine from that same point of orientation. It's almost like anyone that's trying to move towards the feminine from the point of the passion right now, it's too triggering. Feminine's like, absolutely not. I'm already pushing that aside, keeping their focus on what feels like it is actually productive and practical. Masculine energy right now in separation, you are potentially, again, having this point of deeper understanding right now. This is that moment of recognizing that if you're trying to come from a space or place of just focusing on the passion, it's not potentially having a lot of productivity at this time. Again, this is that process that the masculine, if you're in this collective right now, is learning, related to the fact of having to be vulnerable about articulating what it is that you actually want. It's not just enough to come through the facet of the passion right now. For the masculine doing this right now, it's almost immediately leading you to new opportunities, new options, new openness that you haven't experienced before. But it's also coming at the cost of deep observation on how the fact that the way that you proceeded prior to this point was not the right direction. It was not the right mode. It was not the right vibration. It's causing a point of course correction that is feeling somewhat retroactive because you're now seeing how you must have come across. And again, for half of the masculine collective right now, this is that point of deeper understanding of the self as you have these new possibilities open that is creating some point of recalibration on past experiences. Or this is a masculine that is trying to go back towards a feminine that this has already happened with, having to articulate to them, I see it now. I see how you saw me, because I see it in myself. And this is that point of trying to advocate that there's a point of correction that can be had because the masculine can now observe it within the self. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between King of Wands in its reversal in combination with our High Priestess in its reversal. May I please have one card? Clarification coming through right now with our King of Swords in its upright. And we love to see this card right now, particularly as it relates to the energies that are in partnership at this moment. Because again, what we're effectively seeing right now is for the energies that are in partnership at this time is, again, feminine is having a point of reassessing their own actions as it relates to the behavior or the way the masculine energy is behaving them around them right now. There could be a moment that the feminine may be feeling or recognizing that they may have feeling like they may have over-asked something of the masculine yesterday that felt like it was a stretch. This was a masculine that felt like they had to put their own needs aside to be able to give this to the feminine to a certain extent. Their feminine is now seeing the fact that the masculine is feeling a bit more closed off or communication-wise right now from them. This is feminine energy doing a lot of this deeper internal work right now, even in partnership at this moment. But again, relying on the fact that this is a masculine energy that stands in their integrity. So this is almost feeling like this is a point of certainty and confidence that the feminine energy is having at this moment, in terms of feeling the significance and the strength in feeling the fact is that the feminine recognizes that they firmly believe that if they ask the masculine energy that is in this vibration right now, that they will get a true answer. That this is not necessarily a masculine energy that is trying to mislead or misguide the feminine, but instead, this is a masculine energy that is just staying a little closed off right now and potentially would very much articulate upon that were they asked. Feminine energy is potentially having this point of recalibration right now, but lending that sense of security and knowing that this is a masculine that holds firm, that can stand in their integrity, can be trusted to mean what they say. And this is what is helping the partnership at this time. Masculine, this is a moment right now that, again, if you're in partnership right now with feminine, we could be identifying and recognizing the fact that you yourself are doing your best to kind of stand in a place of integrity towards this feminine right now. You are potentially seeing the fact that the feminine right now is in a bit of a misalignment to you, even in partnership right now. You could be seeing and identifying that this is a feminine energy that is feeling like they've gone more inwards. They're kind of closing themselves off because they're in this point of questioning themselves. Masculine, this may be kind of hard right now for you to be able to reach this energy because you yourself are also in a vibration or a modality where you're not really feeling very strong in terms of your own plan of communication. You are also trying to be very cautious of not hitting any trigger points because you're recognizing that one of the reasons a feminine might be in this vibration right now, were you in partnership, was that something was triggering yesterday that needs to now be recalibrated. But this is masculine trying to come to the support of feminine right now by letting the feminine know that they can depend on the masculine. That the masculine energy is not necessarily going to abandon the feminine energy even at these moments that they're feeling weak, but instead that the masculine is offering to the feminine that they can lean on them at these times. Again, the positive partnered energies, the energies in union, falling together as opposed to falling apart. For masculine and feminine energy trying to come into partnership at this time, this is that point of orientation as to whether something can go forward effectively. Feminine energy is now looking at masculine right now with a lot of polarity. This is it. And this is the problem right now because this is a feminine energy that is questioning their choice in the masculine right now because the feminine energy asks the masculine to do something to show the fact that what they feel has some kind of qualitative metric as it relates to actually being something that can be tangibly seen and tangibly expressed. Either the masculine is providing that to the feminine, i.e., the feminine is identifying a masculine that can stand in their integrity right now. Or feminine is not seeing this, which is showing, again, a feminine that is looking right now to a masculine and identifying a masculine that either cannot make up their mind at the best or at worst is only doing something and only moving in the direction that feels right for their own purposes, for their own devices, moving in a state or space of autonomy with no ability to understand the power of collaboration, i.e. divine union. This is feminine recalibrating and continuing, and again, much like the energy right now in separation, focusing on masculine energy that knows what they want and stands in integrity with going after it. So this is, again, the feminine pulling away right now from some potential partner opportunities or the chance of divine union if they're not seeing this quality and characteristic in the other energy. Masculine, you could be seeing this right now on the part of the feminine. This could be the feminine energy if you're trying to move into partnership and the feminine asked something of you. This is you effectively either providing it to the feminine, and immediately seeing the fact that that is the proof to the and I need to stress right now, there's a bit at this moment right now for some of the masculine energy that's trying to do this. This may be the anxiety of potentially trying to do something that feels a little too late here. Because this is masculine energy that is recognizing that this is a feminine energy that has been asking for this for quite some time. You're potentially now trying to come forward to the feminine in this way. But you may realize that this feels a little late because the feminine's already pulled away from you because they've given up waiting for it. Hence some of that overcompensation, catch-up energy that we're seeing here. For the other part of the masculine energy right now, this is a moment that you're still deciding. This is a moment that you're still vacillating in both energies right now as it relates to coming into partnership. This is a feminine energy that is pulling away from the masculine. It's almost in a way the feminine already feels like they've seen what they need to see. They've seen that vacillation point, and this is the feminine pulling away. It's like almost like if the partnership hasn't become established now, whether there can be a partnership is now on the table because the feminine's had to wait too long for this. For masculine and feminine energy and separation, now we see that these are starting to blend again. This is a feminine energy that is again, and this is where the separation energy is walking into the door of the energy that's already here. This is feminine energy that's looking at masculine energy and keeping their focus on only masculine energy that comes from a space or state of integrity, that knows what they want, that are honest and open about what they want, and is not going to effectively navigate spaces or places of trying to manipulate the feminine or not knowing what it is that they truly desire. Feminine energy is rejecting this right now because they feel like it is not practical. They're instead focusing their manifestation on masculine energy that's standing in their integrity. Now, for masculine and feminine energy, the masculine energy and separation right now, this is that recalibration point. This is, again, if you're opening up, if you're moving from the space and place now in new energy by standing in your integrity, taking that risk of being open, being vulnerable, expressing exactly what you're looking for, immediately recognizing, again, that this either immediately allows the feminine to say, I also want that, or moves you away from feminine. This is okay because you're recognizing now that dawning realization as it relates to how you may have been perceived in the past by not doing this. This is that set of optics now on how you standing in your power now gives you clarity on how you weren't standing in your power in the past, which is, again, some of that retroactive learning that's coming into past experiences that's helping deepen your understanding on what may have led to some points of rift with feminine. Then again, for half of the masculine collective, this is that bittersweet movement right now, moving forward, but now fully understanding your own culpability in what may have occurred in the past. Or this is you trying to fix this right now. This is you trying to approach this feminine energy and identify and articulate and say, I get it now. I get it. I understand what I did wrong. I understand how I was culpable in you pulling away from me, and I'm ready to stand in my integrity. Continuing to get clarification on these cards between our High Priestess in its reversal in combination with our Ace of Pentacles in its reversal. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our Knight of Pentacles. We love seeing this. For masculine and feminine energy in partnership right now, this is a beautiful, positive, productive card because what we're effectively seeing is, again, this is masculine energy, again, having in a way to almost like overcompensate for the feminine right now. There's a feminine energy that like potentially asks something from the feminine masculine. Everybody was potentially triggered yesterday. Even in partnership, there may have been some buttons that were hit. This is masculine energy trying to cautiously approach feminine and say to them in some way, shape, or form, I have you. I support you. I'm not going anywhere. I can be relied upon. I can be here. And that's almost helping the feminine and say, like, I recognize that you're having a moment. But it's almost a masculine saying, this is you having a moment. This doesn't identify or articulate the full breadth of our relationship. This doesn't identify or articulate the full breadth of our meaning. This could even be saying to the feminine energy. This could even be having the masculine, like, effectively talking to the feminine right now and saying, like, there's something here that I think you may need to reconsider. There's something here that you may need to consider from a different perspective. There's something here about the masculine trying to offer the feminine a different perspective here that is effectively allowing them to potentially find that point of recalibration within the self. This could almost be coming from the state or space. The problem with this, even in partnership right now, is this could be feeling from the point of view of the feminine, like the masculine potentially lending some like unsolicited advice, but like feminine almost like recognizing right now in partnership that it's potentially coming from a good place, but again, this is either the feminine appreciating this from the part of the masculine that's doing this because it's like helping them as it relates to questioning their own self at this time. For some of the energy in partnership, this could be a little bit more of that prickle that we're seeing that was potentially occurring with some triggers getting hit of a feminine being like, well, I appreciate you giving me your opinion. I didn't necessarily ask for it. While for masculine and feminine right now that is coming into partnership, this is it. This is that moment that we're effectively seeing right now as it relates to partnership in the space or place of the feminine sea. And this is the problem right now. This is the problem right now for the energy that is only now coming forward to the feminine in this way. Because what are we seeing with the masculine energy trying to come into partnership with the feminine? Masculine energy was asked by feminine to do something to show that their actions match their words. Either the masculine energy went ahead and did it. Congratulations, boom, you're continuing forward on the divine union process. The other part, you've been vacillating. You've been vacillating, you've been vacillating, you've been vacillating. What's happening now? Feminine's pulling away from you. Feminine is disengaging. Feminine is uncoupling from you. Because now the feminine is not only just saying to me, it's not even just saying the fact that they don't know if you are going to provide this. They're questioning if you even know how to. For half the masculine collective right now in working through this is you rushing forward finally. This is you finally offering that. But also recognizing that there's something here that feels a little too late. It's almost feeling like overcompensation right now for an energy that's already disengaged. And this is a moment that feels anxiety inducing because you're almost at a point right now where you don't know if what you are going to offer is going to be accepted, because this feminine energy has already kind of been like, no, like I shouldn't have had to wait. I shouldn't have had to wait for this. It should have just been given when I asked for it. While for the other part of the masculine collective right now, this is you continuing to vacillate on what you're offering this energy, and you're watching the energy disentangle from you. You're watching the energy dissipate from you as you're caught in this point of feeling like you are uncertain how to move. You are incapacitating yourself by your own indecision, and you're literally watching the energy like cut away from you in the process. While for masculine and feminine energy that is in separation, this is feminine's commitment. It's hard for the feminine right now because feminine is feeling the pull towards energy right now that they may continue to have a lot of passion towards, but they're recognizing that that doesn't feel practical. Feminine energy is recognizing their own ability to overcommit to things in tangible ways that do not commit to them back in kind. Feminine energy is effectively freezing themselves. This is like feminine energy is putting like a freezer spell on themselves in separation right now, saying to themselves, I may feel the connection to some energy that I have a deep passion for, but absolutely flippin' not. I am not putting my energy into something that I only have a passionate or energetic connection to. I am freezing myself from committing in a tangible way to that because I'm recognizing that that doesn't feel like it's in service to my higher good. Instead, focusing on actual, tangible offers, on what is real, on what is showing real, as opposed to what feels like a passionate or energetic connection that doesn't have any honk for confirmation, that doesn't have any actual tangible evidence in the practical space. Okay, this is now the separated energy and the partnered energies. You see how they're coming back together now? You see how they're coming back together? See it? Masculine energy that is in separation right now. This is that dawning realization if you've been doing this work, because you're now coming forward in a more honest, open, practical way that shows your integrity. You're not playing any of these shell games. You're just telling the feminine energy what you're offering. You're showing it to them. You're saying, this is the limitations. This is what I am offering. And this moment is creating a dawning realization to you of every moment. This is that retroactive knowledge that's now leading to like awakening moment. Like, oh my gosh, because you're now seeing every other instance that you didn't do this and what it was requiring of the energy around you to offer you so much without receiving that. This is that aha moment. This is that oh my goodness moment. You're seeing the immediate result for it. You're getting that like that understanding of the self because you've grown, and it's creating like a retroactive like domino effect in everything that's happened prior to this point. It's like the rebuilding of your own narrative. For the other part of the masculine collective right now that is in separation, that's doing this work, this is you trying to go towards some energy you've already done this to. This is you effectively saying, oh my gosh, I realize it now. I understand what they were giving me and what I wasn't giving them. And this is you effectively trying to come forward with a gesture to say, I get it now. I see me, how you saw me at that moment. I now see what you are asking me for. I am willing and ready to offer that to you, if you're willing to accept it, but also recognizing that they might not. This is more coming from a state or space of having to take that point of vulnerability and saying, like, I see it now. I'm trying to give it to you. And if you don't accept it, I understand why. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Six of Swords in combination with our Page of Wands in its reversal. May I please have one card to clarify? We've got here our Two of Wands. We love this. Productivity, communication, planning, masculine and feminine energy in partnership right now. This is overcoming the hurdle. This is overcoming the hurdle, carrying some of the grief. We saw that even for the energies in partnership, there was a lot of things that were getting unpacked over the last couple of days. A lot of blockages, a lot of identifications of almost like no zones, potentially even some trauma coming up, some triggered things, potentially even uncovering triggers that you didn't know were there. And this is, again, a moment of recalibration and trying to articulate and observe to each other in terms of saying in the partnership, I understand that now. I will be more careful going forward. These are like a lot of apologies potentially coming in saying, I see what I bumped up against. I'll work better in the future not to do so. And allowing this to be a point of productivity going forward. Like, how are we going to steer around these things right now? How are we going to navigate some of these? While for masculine and feminine energy that is trying to come into partnership at this moment, this is effectively that make or break moment. Again, did the masculine energy come forward in the way that the feminine was asking them to? For the feminine energy that saw it, you guys are already moving into the divine union cycle. For the other part of this right now, feminine is now looking at this masculine energy and it's feeling more of a point of divine frustration. It is no longer looking at this almost from a point of view of a masculine that is using some point of like that is trying to like move from a state or space of like serving their own needs and purposes and trying to be like very nuanced here. This is almost looking at the masculine right now, almost like one would look at a child. Because again, this is either now a feminine energy that has waited so long for the masculine to come forward with this offer that it feels like such a deep level of recalibration. It's almost created a point of frustration for the feminine because it's like almost at the very last moment after feminine has kind of like started to completely close the door on a masculine, only then is the masculine finally showing up for some of this. And this is the moment the feminine's looking at this right now and saying like, this is not the behavior of someone coming from a state or space of integrity. It's feeling like someone who is acting more like a child as it relates to asking for something and waiting and procrastinating to the last available moment to be able to offer it. This is why even now, if the masculine's finally coming forward in this way, there's a moment that feminine is questioning whether they can actually proceed because it was the delay that is now building a space where the feminine was ready to walk away. And now the masculine's finally coming out in this way, and the feminine's questioning whether they should receive it at all. Masculine, and right now, that's effectively in this space or place. This, and if they're having receiving it, if they haven't received it, this is feminine just saying, I'm done. This is feminine just saying, I'm done waiting for you to make up your mind. I'm just going forward. I'm going to go find new postures. This could even be feminine communicating to the masculine right now that something is over today. That this is something that they're just ready to relinquish, ready to release because they're tired of waiting. While for masculine and right now that is trying to come into partnership, this is you potentially having to identify whether you actually want to be in partnership or not. Because this is, again, we are seeing here a cycle where you may have moved towards a feminine energy and you may have indicated that you wanted to, but then the feminine energy asked you to do something, to take a step based on your own ability to express what it is that is going on with you that you have been vacillating on. That for the feminine energy right now that wants to come into divine union and partnership, it wasn't just about communicating your emotionality or your feelings. There had to be some tangible expression that they could see that was making this feel like it was real. Masculine, you've been vacillating on this. You've been vacillating on this. If you didn't vacillate on it, you're in divine union right now. You've been moving into divine union. If you have been vacillating on this is that moment that you yourself are recognizing and saying, like, I don't know if I'm ready to do this. And it's interesting because, again, this is where you're starting to fall into the separation energy, because we're seeing here that you're almost identifying your own limitation here. It's almost a moment where you're seeing yourself and saying, I'm not ready. I'm not ready to do this. Either, again, this is half of the masculine energy that you are recognizing right now that wants something that you're trying to rush forward with to feminine may be too little too late. That this is a feminine energy that was very patient for this, and only now you're offering it and you don't know if it's going to be received. You're waiting to find out. Or this is masculine energy that is conceding to themselves and saying, I keep going back and forth. I must not really want this. I don't know what I want. I can't. I need to move away from this. In which case, again, this is effectively you either trying to communicate that to the feminine in terms of the fact that you're not ready, or this is you effectively allowing this to walk away from you. You're just letting that energy go away, and you're looking forward as it relates to your own plans going forward. Feminine energy right now in separation, this is effectively, again, shedding anything that feels like it is coming for you strictly from a space or place of passion. When I say feminine is rejecting anything that feels like strictly a passionate connection right now, I mean feminine is abandoning anything that feels like it is strictly a passionate connection. Feminine is not holding on to past versions of that. Feminine's not entertaining future versions. Anytime feminine sees that right now in separation, they're going next. Next. Feminine's looking for integrity and offers right now. Passion is like way low on the list because it's triggering to the feminine right now, because feminine has a passionate connection that they're trying to break away from. For masculine right now that is in separation, this is that moment that, again, you are seeing yourself with new eyes. If you are doing this work, if you are coming towards the feminine right now from a state or space of integrity and being very clear in terms of what you are tangibly offering, both its abilities and its limitations, you are now seeing yourself with the full optics of what the feminine was effectively rejecting prior to this. They could even be articulating to you energy that doesn't open up in that same way. You're seeing yourself through the feminine's eyes. It is creating a point of carrying the weight of what's brought you here. You're like standing on the pinnacle of your own growth, and you're having to recognize how you were potentially a part of that prior to this, if you weren't coming from that state of tangibility and practicality and integrity. And it is allowing for further communication with this energy as it relates to your own healing process. So again, that point of positivity going forward while also having to articulate on your past journey within. Or this is, again, masculine energy that now recognizes their own culpability in what potentially went wrong as it relates to feminine. And this is effectively the masculine articulating their grief and their own observation of their own limitations to feminine to be able to come into a space of healing and catharsis. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Page of Wands in combination with our King of Swords. May I please have one card to clarify? We've got here our Six of Pentacles, and it's upright. We love to see this right now for partnered energies because, again, this is masculine and feminine energy giving back to each other. Finding the solution right now, the fix to this is in reciprocity, in giving and getting back. It's remembering and the reminder right now that the strong partnerships, the strong divine unions are ones that reciprocate. Masculine energy right now is standing in their integrity right now, potentially even through something that feels like a bit of a communication hurdle. Because again, while there is something here that feels like a bit of a blockage right now for the masculine is standing in their integrity because they know that that is what's going to create reciprocity going forward. For feminine right now, there is a moment that you're potentially seeing right now that, again, This masculine is potentially carrying some inner child wounds. Something that occurred yesterday may have been somewhat triggering to the masculine feminine, potentially because we saw that there was a moment that you asked the masculine energy to shelve their own needs for the sake of your own feeling of love. This is feminine effectively having to almost feel like they need to overcompensate to this masculine right now that is kind of now carrying some of this inner child wound of having to like put their own needs aside for the sake of that we're seeing is allowing for that degree of reciprocity coming back into play here. While for masculine and feminine energy trying to come into partnership at this time, this is again that make or break. This is either the masculine energy that is now offering what they can to the feminine. They're recognizing that a good partnership requires that ability of reciprocity. It requires that ability of collaboration that sometimes feels like compromise to the masculine. And masculine is effectively saying, I'm willing to accept that. This is masculine, again, if they're trying to play catch up right now, this is masculine saying like, I'm sorry it took me a minute. I'm ready. I'm here for it. No, really, I am. And almost like having, if they're trying to do this right now, they have to like literally articulate to the feminine energy that they get it. It's no longer just a fact of doing it right now. It's almost like the masculine having to articulate that they totally understand that this is the type of reciprocity that feminine needs going forward. And if masculine's able to communicate about that in that way, you know, then there's still a possibility and ability for this to come into divine union. For the other part of the masculine energy right now, this is that moment that we are seeing that this is feeling like that point in terms of you going back and forth as to whether you want to be in a situation or circumstance that involves and requires this point of reciprocity. For some of you, this is potentially feeling like it is a bridge too far because it is not necessarily feeling like it is reciprocity so much as it feels like it is limiting your capacity to follow your own sense of autonomy at this moment. This is where we're now seeing the fact that for some of the masculine energy right now, there's a deeper question springing to the surface as to whether you are truly ready and willing to seek divine union at this time, whether you're being fully open with yourself as to what it is that you're really seeking. It's almost bringing you into an internal journey again. The cycle is repeating itself. Feminine is done with it. Feminine energy right now is now moving into the same exact vibration as the feminine in separation. Feminine is either looking at the masculine saying you're either standing in integrity right now or you're acting like a child. The problem with this right now for the feminine, both for the feminine in separation right now and the feminine trying to come into partnership, is if the masculine isn't showing up for the feminine right now in a tangible way. Feminine is either looking at masculine right now and saying you are either standing in your integrity, you're either showing up for me, or you're acting like a child, and I only want energy that is able to reciprocate. It's not just the fact right now that the feminine's looking at even energy right now, that they're feeling a partnership or they're feeling that physical, passionate attachment to. They are looking at it almost like they are a child. They are acting like a child. If they're not showing up, they are behaving like an immature child would, as opposed to someone standing in their integrity. And feminine's basically saying, both in separation and trying to come into partnership right now, I'm not having it. I don't want to be in a relationship with a child. I want to be in a relationship with someone that stands and acts in their integrity. Masculine energy in separate, and so these two have now reached a convergence point. The feminine energy trying to come into partnership right now and the feminine energy in separation, they're pretty much looking like the same thing. Masculine energy in separation right now, this is you effectively now finally standing in your integrity. You're being very open. You're being very equivocal to the feminine in terms of what you're offering at this time. This is now having you recognize spaces and places in the past where you didn't do this. You're saying, oh my gosh, I see it now. I see the difference to how I'm acting now versus how I used to act in the past. It's taking a point of personal recalibration, healing retroactively, recognizing one's own faults. Now, for half of the masculine collective, you're utilizing this to go forward with that deeper understanding that is bittersweet. For the other part of the masculine collective right now, this is you trying to fix it. This is you trying to go back to a certain particular manifestation of feminine, to articulate to them, I was a child then. I didn't know what I was doing. I was acting like a child. I understand now. I'm ready to commit into something that feels reciprocal. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now. We love these two cards in combination. Our King of Swords and our Knight of Pentacles. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now. We love this as well. Our Hangman in its reversal. Beautiful energy today. Absolutely beautiful energy. Again, even in partnerships here, if there was any heaviness that was being carried over the last few days, this is a bit of that cloud break that we love to see right now. This is a bit of that release and that relief coming into play. Why are we seeing this right now? Specifically because we are identifying right now for the energies in partnership. This is masculine really showing up in a big way for the feminine right now in partnership. There is a moment that the feminine energy is questioning themselves. They may even be questioning their actions over the last few days, because we even see that yesterday there was a point of feminine asking a lot from masculine, and masculine potentially feeling like they had to put their feelings and shelve them aside to a certain extent to be able to be in service to the feminine. This is masculine. This is feminine even kind of having a point of potentially trying to recalibrate to masculine and telling them that they potentially regret what they said, they regret how they reacted. It's almost like that point of internal recalibration that the feminine is expressing to the masculine right now, even in partnership. Masculine is effectively saying to the feminine right now in partnership, I got you, babe. I got you. Don't worry about it. It's okay. It's almost like all the masculine needed from the feminine was feminine having a point of reconsidering their own actions, is almost immediately healing the inner child wound that was caused by the masculine having to put their own needs aside temporarily for the sake of the feminine. It's immediately allowing for an easement for both energies, because masculine is reaffirming to the feminine in partnership, saying, I've got your back. Don't worry about it. It's something I'm willing to do. I'm willing to be patient when you need those moments right now, because I recognize that this is reciprocal. We offer this to both of ourselves. There are days when I also need this from you. This is what's allowing both energies right now to be able to feel like things are moving into an easier space. Feminine, you are also feeling this right now. You're recognizing that you are in a partnership that doesn't require you to be perfect. For the feminine, this is exactly why the partnership is so valuable, because it is a space or place where the masculine is saying to the feminine, you don't need to be perfect here. You can be your most flawed self when it is necessary, because even in your flaws, we are going to find that point of productivity moving forward. And that is what is further building that sense of easement with the feminine as they proceed forward from this point. Masculine and feminine energy right now that is working to come into partnership. This is effectively it. This is that moment that feminine energy is looking to see if they see it in the masculine. They either see it or they don't. The feminine energy trying to come into partnership with masculine is not looking, is not at all invested or interested with masculine energy that they just feel a passionate connection to. Feminine energy is looking for masculine energy that is standing in their integrity with solid, stable offers. And feminine is effectively freeing themselves from anything that is not showing that. This is that breakage point. This is a feminine energy that is no longer willing to be patient to wait. This is a feminine energy that even if someone's bringing it forward right now, there's going to be a point of deliberation as to whether feminine accepts it. Because feminine energies already kind of removed themselves from the situation. Feminine has already kind of, in a way, reinvested their energy into seeking this out in other spaces and places, because something here was vacillating too long, and it gave feminine all the information they needed in seeing that point of vacillation. Masculine, you could potentially be seeing this right now with the feminine. You could even be seeing right now, if you've been going through this with the feminine and you've been vacillating, that this is a feminine energy that's now leaving themselves open to other offers. There could be a point right now where you're actually recognizing right now that this is effectively occurring, that this is something where the feminine energy is almost like pulled away from you right now so much that you're recognizing that they may not necessarily even be available to you right now, which is, again, either that moment right now for some of the masculine collective wherein, again, you're trying to rush forward. You're trying to overcompensate to a certain extent in terms of offering this to the feminine, because you're now saying like, look, I get it. I understand what you want. I want this too. I want this too. Come back. I'm sorry I vacillated. I get it now. Not sure if they're going to accept it. Or masculine energy, this is a moment that you're holding firm in your own integrity. You're not necessarily ready to give forth in this way. You might be. You're getting there. But this is our turtle night. This is the slowest night. And that's the thing. You're not going to be rushed in this process, even to the fact that you may let something go in the process. For the other part of the masculine collective, this is almost like them standing firm and saying, I'm not going to be rushed in terms of what I'm offering. I'm going to offer it when I'm ready to offer it. And if something has to move away from me in that time, then this is masculine energy just coming into a point of catharsis about it. Masculine and feminine energy right now in separation. This is feminine energy just, again, this is healing traumas. This is the end of cycles. This is feminine energy breaking cycles right now. Effectively saying, I don't care if I have some kind of passionate connection to you. I need to see if it's actually tangible. I need to see it practical. I need to see that you're standing in your integrity. I'm not going to hold on to this connection based purely on some kind of like sexual connection to you in any way, shape, or form. The only way that this is going to persist or pervade is if you stand in your integrity and if you show the ability to actually offer something to the feminine. That is the only thing that feminine is making time to hold right now. They're freeing themselves from anything that's not showing that. Masculine collective right now, this is that moment that we're seeing if you are in separation, that you are coming forward in this way right now. You are going through this growth cycle where, again, you are showing up for yourself in a way that you haven't before. You are articulating very clearly what it is that you're truly seeking to the feminine right now, recognizing that you're effectively offering it to the feminine to be able to reject or to accept. And that is you standing in your integrity, because you're not being amorphous about it. You're not just adjusting or acclimating to what the feminine seems like they need. You're just being very clear in terms of what it is that you're desiring to make sure that the feminine has full transparency and optics in that. And this is that point of liberation. This is making things easier for you. You're seeing it in tangible real time, and it is helping you understand how you may have needed to show up in that way in the past. It is retroactively giving you a point of observation that is leading to deeper healing, that is helping you show up in a more present, authentic way in the moment of now. And again, for some of the masculine collective right now, this is freeing you, breaking your own cycles as you go forward from this space. Or this is you now freeing yourself, going back to something to correct it, saying, I understand now. I know how we can break this cycle. I understand what I need to change about how we interact and how I was engaging with you that is going to lead to better productive spaces moving forward. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Two of Wands in combination with our Six of Pentacles. We love to see these two cards in combination right now. We've got here our Five of Wands in its reversal. We are seeking peace, and we love to see this path of peace that is being traversed. Masculine and feminine energy right now. This is, again, in partnership. This is productivity. This is coming into peace. This is apologies today. This is healing. This is effectively focusing and saying, we're going to work on reciprocity. We're going to work on even give and take. We're going to work on laying those plans for the future. And we're going to work to bury the hatchet on anything that is causing any sense of conflict right now. This is just effectively identifying and saying, look, nobody wants to fight. We want to find the path of least resistance. We want to find what's going to feel comfortable in the partnership itself that's going to lead to a productive path going forward. And it all is around equal give and take and productive communication and planning. These are the solutions to the problem. Masculine and feminine energy right now trying to come into partnership. This is it. This is it. This is feminine saying, I'm not going to fight for this. This is feminine saying, I'm not going to pull teeth for this. This is feminine looking to the masculine and saying, I don't want to be in a space where every time I ask you for something, we have to go through a wrestling match. I want to be in a divine union. I want to know that if I ask you for something, you are going to want to work with me to build for that. We are going to be in a space or place that feels like it is reciprocal. It feels like it is collaborative. It doesn't feel like when I ask for something, I have to rip it out of you or force it out of you. This is why even now, if the masculine delayed in providing this to the feminine is now vacillating. Because it's almost the fact that feminine has to look at what it took to get this, what it took to get to this point, and saying, is it going to have to be like this every single time? Is it going to feel like an uphill battle every time I ask you for something and we have to fight about getting it? Or are we going to just be on the same page? This is what's happening right now for the energy that's stepping forward to the feminine right now, because this is now feminine that needs to be convinced that that point of easement is possible, because whatever this is took a lot of effort to get from the masculine. Masculine, and this is either the feminine. If the feminine's not seeing it, feminine's done. Feminine is done. Feminine's moving back into separation now. Feminine's like, I'm done. I'm not doing this. I'm not fighting with this. I'm not letting you bring conflict in my life by having to ask for this. Because you should just offer it. You should just offer it willingly if you truly desired a divine partnership. Like desired it, not just said that you desired it. If you truly understood it, you would understand. Like the give and take would just be there. It wouldn't feel like such a struggle point. I can't change that. Feminine energy is just moving on. Back into separation. Masculine, that is now in working towards partnership. This is that point that you're really asking yourself, do you really want partnership? Or you're getting it from the feminine now. Because again, this is either you rushing ahead now after having a lot of conflict, going, I've made up my mind now. I'm sorry, I'm ready. I'm sorry, I don't know what that was. Forgive, like whatever this was, I wasn't sure. I'm ready now. I'm ready to go forward. But you're also recognizing that feminine sees how much time and conflict has come prior to this. There's something about having to take accountability for what's now caused the change so quick, because this wasn't something that you moved into quickly. It's almost like requiring you to articulate on the fact that it won't be this hard going forward. For the other part of the masculine collective right now, this is you effectively recognizing that you don't in fact necessarily desire divine union at this time. You're not ready. You're not ready to do this give and take, because again, you're feeling like it's being forced out of you. And you're kind of trying to say right now, I'll do it when I'm ready. And it's okay, because like I'm not ready right now. And that's what you're making peace with. For feminine right now in separation, now the feminine in separation and the feminine that was trying to come into partnership are on the same page. Exactly the same thing. Feminine's like, I'm not forcing this out of anyone. Even if I feel a connection with someone, it doesn't matter if I feel this like deep connection with someone, I'm not forcing a connection out of anyone. The reciprocity needs to be there or it's not. I'm seeking other venues. I'm seeking other possibilities. I'm seeking new energy that just will give me that equal give and take. Masculine in separation right now, this is either, again, you now implementing new practices in what feels reciprocal, being honest, coming from a state of integrity, coming from a state right now of openness, identifying and articulating this. And this is that moment that, again, it's building optics in what didn't work in the past. It's building optics on how you've changed. You may even be articulating a lot about the fact about how you've changed right now. Like what it's taken to get you to that point. Again, either with new energy as you work through this right now, or this is that moment that you're trying to come into a space of healing with an energy by saying, I understand what didn't work in the past. I get it now. I've grown. I know what to do. Like, let's talk. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Six of Pentacles in combination with our Hangman in its reversal. Clarification coming through right now with our Nine of Swords in its reversal. So, what are we effectively seeing here? Again, masculine and feminine energy in partnership right now. It is the immediate give and take. It is the immediate reciprocity. It is asking for something, immediately getting back. It is that feeling of collaboration. that is feeling like, again, you can go through any hurdle. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if there are difficulties. It doesn't matter if there are hurdles. It's because they can all be effectively achieved. They can all be fixed. Because it's almost this observation of saying it's not that when we go through something difficult that it's going to be perfect, but we're going to do everything we can to fix it as we navigate those points. That is what is freeing the partnerships right now. This is what's fortifying the divine unions. It is that willingness, that desire to see a problem and want to immediately correct it, not perpetuate it, not blame each other for it, just wanting to get into a space or place where it can be fixed as quickly, as easily as possible is what is fortifying the divine unions right now. Masculine and feminine trying to move into partnership right now. This is effectively, again, the feminine now that is moving into partnership or trying to is now in the exact same space and state of the energy that is now in separation, which says, if there is difficulty between us, if there is a hurdle between us, even if there's a connection that I'm feeling drawn to, that I have some kind of connection to at this point, and we're not in communication, this is the problem. Because a good divine partnership would not allow a problem to just linger and hover. They would do everything that they can to fix it. They would do everything possible to fix it. This is how now the energy right now in separation and the energy that is now trying to come into partnership are now merging back into the same. Because feminine's either saying, I had a need. I articulated that need. Did you immediately try to fix and amend that need? Did you come to what I needed to feel loved or seen? Or did you make me carry it? Did you vacillate? Did you go back and forth? Feminine is recognizing that divine unions are ones that would immediately not want them to be in a space of suffering. They would not intentionally have someone sit in a space of suffering, but would instead want to immediately correct and heal if there was a point of pain occurring. Feminine is now looking to a masculine that's now trying to do this right now. And the problem isn't potentially for the energy that's now trying to do this, that they're trying to do it. It's that they're trying to do it now and it didn't come immediately. It's that it's trying to make up for the time that it caused for the feminine to have to suffer as they were waiting for this right now. And the feminine's effectively saying, it's like feminine's trying to balance in terms of whether they can weigh the fact that the masculine didn't immediately provide this, but actually like created a struggle point in receiving this right now that is causing this uncertainty to the feminine as to whether they want to proceed forward with this manifestation of masculine. Masculine, you're potentially identifying this. You're potentially seeing the fact that you're bringing something to the feminine a little too late, that the feminine asked you for this and you vacillated. And this is, again, a moment that you're now effectively offering it and you're trying to make up for the time it took for you to be able to provide this to the feminine. And this is that moment that you're effectively watching and waiting the feminine to see if they're going to effectively take you up on this or if they're going to continue to move away. Masculine and feminine right now, the feminine in separation is in the same exact space and place that we identified the feminine trying to come into partnership is. Feminine is effectively at a point right now where they're just freeing themselves from anyone or anything, regardless of whether they feel the connection to them, because they're looking at the fact that a good partnership, a productive divine union, would not put someone in a space or place where they would effectively feel like they were having to wait to be able to get reciprocity. It would just be reciprocal. It would just be reciprocal. It would just be reciprocal. And that's how the feminine energy is easing themselves now into new possibilities, new partnerships. This is what is effectively allowing this right now to happen and to occur. The feminine energy is healing these broken cycles by saying the cycle is broken. Feminine saying, I'm not saying that I don't have a connection to an energy right now, but that cycle is broken and I'm refusing to adopt or to subscribe to it. Masculine energy in separation right now, this is effectively that healing that you are coming into right now. Because again, for the masculine energy, there is a moment right now where you are finding a new ability to give forward, that you're almost finding that space or place of being vulnerable and honest right now to the feminine is almost immediately paying back in new dividends that you haven't experienced before. It is a liberating circumstance and situation that is also breaking cycles for you. But the breaking of cycles is the identification on how your past experiences, the way that you are potentially conducting yourself with the feminine in the past, may have caused things to be much harder than they needed to be. This is also feeling like a point of recalibration that the masculine right now is either taking forward into new partnerships, new possibilities, while taking culpability for the responsibility that you may have for the past ones having not worked out. Or this is masculine energy trying to come towards a feminine manifestation right now that they've done this to, and saying, I want to give this. This is now the separation energy and the other part of the partnership energy coming back into merging. I'm ready now. I understand. I understand what it means. I'm sorry it took me this long. I get it now. I'm ready. Whether that'll be received is the point of vulnerability, because this is an energy that's had to wait for it. Final card for today's spread, between our 5 of Wands in its reversal and our 9 of Swords in its reversal. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our 7 of Cups. Masculine and feminine energy, even at this moment, it's really kind of intriguing, because what we're really seeing here is for the masculine and the feminine energy that is in partnership at this time. It is the ease of the partnership that's just opening up so many more opportunities. It's like the sky is the limit to a certain extent. And this is why the partnerships are continuing forward in this place and space of productivity. Because while there is this sense, and again, making things as easy as possible for each other, taking the weight of grief and anxiety off of one's shoulders, almost unburdens you from having to put so much care and concentration in the partnership cycle, allows you to focus that energy elsewhere. It's more about where to focus it right now that could feel somewhat overwhelming. It's almost like a where do we go from here energy that's opening the door to so many possibilities that the hardest choice is focusing where to direct your energy at this time. Positive, kind of best worst problem right now for the energies that are in divine union and partnership. For masculine and feminine energy right now that is working on coming into partnership, this is effectively it. This is again the feminine energy that is now walking away. This is feminine energy that may already have walked away from the partnership possibility. If the energy did not provide them that sense of tangibility in terms of what the feminine was asking, this is feminine energy effectively closing the door on it. This is effectively energy saying, I'm moving on to other possibilities. The door is open. I'm leaving myself available, probably making it very clear to everyone, including the energy around them right now, that it was going through this struggle point, that this is not something that they're investing in right now. They're opening up themselves to other opportunities and other possibilities. Masculine, you could be seeing this feminine in this vibration right now. If you're trying to come into partnership and the feminine asks you for something and you vacillated on it. For masculine energy right now that is moving into partnership, this is a moment that, again, you're either rushing forward right now to offer the feminine what they were asking for, but you're not sure if they're going to receive it right now. You're not sure if they're going to receive it. You're now moving back into where the separation cycle is, because the delay has opened the door on new possibilities. The feminine energy is just looking for a state of easement. It's not what they're asking you for right now. It's the recognition that someone would probably offer it to them without so much struggle. Masculine energy, the other part of the masculine collective right now, this is a moment that, again, you're kind of trapped in indecision. And you're just effectively allowing something, you're watching something drift away as you keep your options open. Masculine and feminine in separation. Feminine, you're in the same exact vibration right now as the energy trying to come into partnership. Feminine either sees it right now, either they're getting this back, they're getting this immediate return from the masculine. If it's not tangible, feminine's just leaving themselves open to new opportunities and possibilities. This is becoming a moment of recovery. Feminine's just keeping their direction and focus on what feels tangible, what feels real, as opposed to anything that feels just like an unproductive, energetic connection. Masculine right now in separation If you're doing this work and you're coming to this space and place of recognizing your own need to change, if you've done this work, if you're showing up to feminine in a space of integrity and authenticity as it relates to what you're offering, this is that moment that you're seeing how much easier it is. You're seeing how it almost immediately creates easement in terms of the connection itself. It's feeling so much easier. And this is the moment that, like, again, your whole perception on what has passed before is now shifting, taking into consideration where you find yourself now. So again, new possibilities opening that feel rather overwhelming because you're fully embracing the whole lesson that's happening retroactively on your own experience. Or this is masculine energy trying to come back towards a manifestation of feminine. And you're doing everything you can to try to articulate to them that you now understand what you need to do that's going to make things easier, more transparent, more actual. And it's a moment of trying to identify if the feminine is willing to be able to believe you, or whether they're just going to not necessarily do so, because there's almost a point that you're kind of accepting that this is a feminine that has every cause and reason not to potentially believe you. Bottom of the deck on this reading right now is, we've got here the Sun card. So again, yesterday was some heavy energy. We effectively saw it coming into play. Heavy energy, feelings of doubt, feelings of uncertainty, feelings of loss, feelings of trauma rising up, needed to be navigated, needed to be addressed. For all energies at play, carrying some of the weight of yesterday is still very heavily here. This is that feeling of some kind of setback, some kind of loss, having to carry the weight of disappointment right now is, again, something that feels like a challenge or hurdle, trying to find that bright side as you proceed forward from this point. Masculine and feminine, even in partnership, feeling very triggered right now, trying to lift each other's spirits. The energy right now trying to come into partnership, if masculine's bringing something forward to feminine right now, that feeling of too little, too late is creating some feelings of doubt between both of you right now. And for the partners, energies in separation, this is potentially the grief that the masculine's holding right now in the observation of some past experiences that they now recognize and see with full optics. You understand exactly your own part in what may have occurred. While for feminine, this is moving forward with a sense of doubt or grief on what one needs to relinquish for what actually feels real. That is our daily collective read for today. I want to thank you guys so much for being here to experience it. Just a reminder, if you would like to book a private reading with me, you can book one on my website, graystrega.com. My private readings are done over video with the option of a recording sent to you afterwards. And if you are a subscriber to my TikTok, you can take 10% off any of my services when you pay. Just mention your subscriber ID at the point of payment. Please remember that if you book a private reading with me, it is a two-step process. You have to book the reading, you have to pay for the reading. Please make sure you do both if you would like to have that reading. Most importantly, please remember that I will never, ever reach out to you for a private reading. I will never PM you. I will never DM you. I will never slide into your inbox and tell you that I have a very important message that only I can deliver. The only way you can book a reading with me is if you book one on my website. So I encourage you to do it there. I want to thank you guys so much for being here with me today and sharing with me in these readings. And we will do this again tomorrow.